Let me ask you something. How many times have we watched the Blue Jays let a guy walk, shrug it off, and then sit back and watch that same guy tear it up somewhere else? Because this spring, it's happening again. Not with one guy, not with two. Three former Blue Jays are currently out here putting on a show in spring training, and Toronto is watching from a distance, wondering if they made the right calls this offseason. We're going to break down all three of them today. Look at the numbers and be honest about what it means for this ball club going into 2026. Let's start with Ty France. Now, when the Blue Jays acquired Ty France at last year's trade deadline, it wasn't exactly a blockbuster move. It was a depth add, a veteran presence, someone to stabilize the infield and give you production off the bench or in a platoon role. And France delivered on that. He wasn't flashy. He was never going to be. But what he gave you was reliability, contact-first hitting, elite footwork at first base, and a professional approach at the plate that you simply can't teach. The Blue Jays knew exactly what they were getting with Ty France, and they let him walk anyway. Fast forward to this spring, and France signed a minor league deal with the San Diego Padres. Minor league deal. That means the Padres aren't even guaranteed to have him on the roster, and yet this man is absolutely destroying spring competition right now. Through 11 games, France is hitting .370 with a .952 OPS, 5 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. He's been perfect in the field, 21 innings at first base with 0 errors, and he's even taken reps at third base, showing the kind of versatility that every manager in baseball is looking for. Here's the thing that bothers me about this. The Blue Jays' current plan at first base in 2026 has Eloy Jimenez in the mix. Eloy Jimenez, a guy who has played 60 games or more in a season exactly twice in his entire career. A guy who has been plagued by injuries since he came into the league. Now look, I want Eloy to stay healthy and prove people wrong. I genuinely do. But you're telling me you'd rather bet on an injury-prone outfielder converting to first base than bring back a proven, durable, consistent veteran who just put up a .952 OPS in spring? That's a tough sell. Ty France is a sure thing, and Toronto traded a sure thing for a gamble. Now let's talk about Kiner-Falefa. IKF caught a lot of heat after the postseason last year, and honestly, some of it was fair. He struggled down the stretch after joining Toronto for the final month of the season, and when the lights were brightest in October, he wasn't at his best. That became the lasting image for a lot of Blue Jays fans, and I get it. When you're watching the playoffs and things go sideways, you remember those moments. But here's what people are conveniently forgetting. Kiner-Falefa joined that team with almost no time to adjust. He came in late, learned a new system on the fly, got plugged into a roster in the middle of a pennant race, and was asked to perform immediately. That's a hard spot for anyone. And when you look at what IKF has done throughout his career when he's actually comfortable and settled into a situation, the guy is a weapon. He's a switch hitter who controls the zone, plays plus defense at multiple positions, and brings a high baseball IQ to every game he plays. Boston saw that, signed him for 1 year and $6 million, and now he's making them look smart. Through 9 spring games, Kiner-Falefa is slashing .389, .522, .500 with a 1.022 OPS, 4 walks, 1 strikeout, 0 errors over 42 innings across multiple positions. He is locked in, and for $6 million, that is an absolute bargain. Toronto could have run that back. $6 million is nothing for a team that's trying to compete. Instead, the Red Sox are going to get a healthy, motivated, settled Kiner-Falefa, who has something to prove, and they're going to benefit from everything he learned in Toronto last year. The Blue Jays essentially paid for his adjustment period and then handed him over to a division rival who's going to cash in on the returns. That one stings a little, but if we're being real about which of these 3 departures has the potential to hurt the most, it's Dominguez. And it's not particularly close. Think back to last summer. The Blue Jays' bullpen was a mess. Leads were evaporating. The back end of games was unpredictable. Toronto needed a proven, high-leverage arm who could come in and slam the door, and they went and got Dominguez from Baltimore. And from the moment he put on that Blue Jays uniform, the results were immediate. He gave up just 2 earned runs in his final 19 appearances for Toronto down the stretch. 2 in 19 outings. That's not a hot streak. That's a dominant pitcher operating at a high level when it mattered most. And then the Blue Jays just let him leave. He ended up signing with the Chicago White Sox, which, fine, maybe Toronto didn't want to pay him, maybe there were other factors at play, but look at what he's doing now. 2 scoreless innings in 2 spring appearances, and then he took that form into the World Baseball Classic representing the Dominican Republic, where he's been just as sharp. 3 innings, 1 hit allowed, 2 strikeouts, a win against Nicaragua, and he's still yet to give up a run in this tournament. The man is on an absolute tear. He is confident, his stuff is electric, and he is reminding everyone exactly why Toronto traded for him in the first place. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays went out and brought in Tyler Rogers and Chase Lee to bolster the bullpen. Both of those guys can contribute, no question. But Tyler Rogers is a sidearmer who lives off weak contact, and Chase Lee is still establishing himself at the big league level. Neither one of them is Seranthony Dominguez. Neither one gives you that same combination of pure stuff, high leverage experience, and proven October performance that Dominguez brings. When the Blue Jays are in a tight game in August, up by 1 in the 7th inning and they need a strikeout, who's getting that out? Rogers? Lee? Dominguez would have been that guy. He was already that guy for this organization. They had him, they knew what he was, and they let him walk to one of the worst franchises in the sport. The White Sox are not good. They are going to lose a lot of games this year. But Dominguez is still going to be Dominguez, and he is going to rack up holds and strikeouts and eventually get moved at the deadline to a contender, and that contender is going to be very happy to have him. So yeah, Ty France, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Seranthony Dominguez. 3 former Blue Jays, 3 different situations, and all 3 of them are currently making a case that Toronto pulled the trigger too early. Spring training doesn't tell the whole story, I know that. Numbers in February and March don't always carry over to April and beyond. But trends are trends. And the trend right now is that the Blue Jays had real, tangible, proven contributors and let them all go in the same offseason. The front office made their decisions. Now it's on the players they did bring in to prove those decisions right. But if any of these 3 guys have major years in 2026, and right now all signs point to that being a real possibility, you better believe this conversation is going to come back around. Drop a comment below. Let me know which of these 3 departures you think hurts Toronto the most. And if you're not subscribed yet, do that now. We cover the Blue Jays every single day.